This week, we'll make a can and learn a little bit more about gradients. Okay, so last time we made that lovely sphere, and now we're going to try to do something else. I'm going to go to a cylinder, but I want to talk about what we did with the sphere and what we're doing with the cylinder, and that's what's called a gradient. So let's start working with that and understanding how these gradients work. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and get a new canvas and go to screen size. And we got our new canvas. I'm going to check my colors. Mine got messed up, so I'm going to go here and put in a charcoal. You can use anything dark, but I'm just going to use the dark charcoal color there. And now I'm going to go to my brushes and make sure everything's okay. And click on the vine charcoal is for the eraser, the blender, and the brush. And yep, that's right. Okay, and now I'm set to brush. So everything's right. I'm going to move this all the way up to start, and I'm going to have a high opacity here. So I'm going to start with 100% opacity, and I'm just going to bring my finger down a couple times, and we just get a big dark spot, which is exactly what we want. I'm going to go about halfway down, and I'm just going to do a little bit more on that side. Okay, so we've got now a big splotch. Now let's talk about what the blender does here, okay? The blender will take color and the background and smush them together, essentially. So if I take my finger and run it across, you'll see what happens is that I get a blur, okay? It smudges, and it smudges out from the dark. Now I can do that across the whole bottom here. And now I can go up and down as well and blur those together. And as you see here, I'm going to do that one more time just to get us a little bit better gradient. What we have done, and I can actually bring this up a bit to get it a little easier. And what we have done is built a gradient that goes from a dark color to a light color, like so, okay? Now you can do the same thing the other way, is I can take from the light color and go into the dark color, so I can do the same thing going this way and then blend that up too. And that's what we were doing with our sphere, is taking the two colors, the eraser and the paintbrush, and mixing them together with the blender to create different gradients within the color itself. So we can do this in many different ways. Now, something very similar to what we just did is to do it to a cylinder to make a gradient. So I'm going to go back to my gallery here and make a cylinder. I'm going to go again, go to new screen, size for my canvas. And once I get there, I'm going to go to my brush here. I'm going to move it down a bit so I get some structure here on this. And so I'm going to make myself an oval on top. And then underneath the oval, I'm going to put a single line like this, and then another oval. Okay. Now, once I've got that done, I can now go to my blender and start blending. Now my blender's pretty big here, so I'm going to move that down a bit so it's not so bad. Let's do 19. Okay. And I'm going to just start blending that color from one side to the other, like that. Okay, and we start getting a gray. And again, I can add more color, or dark, as you may want to say, since we're only one color, by using a brush and then blending that in. And I can subtract color by just coming from the other side, coming from the white and putting that in. And of course, if I really want to significantly get the white, that was too big. So let's go down a little. I can take my eraser and put in a little white, go to the blender, and now it starts to blend, okay? And then what we have done as we do this is we've started to create some gradients in here as I just keep going back and forth and mixing these. Okay, and I got a little little too much white on the outside of this side, so I'm going to clean that up a bit. Okay, and now go back to the blender, and I'm going to do an L shape to sort of get the gray over here, and I'm going to just go over here and clean this up a bit, like so. And I'm actually going to make the top a white color because I like that better. So I'm just going to go back up here and maybe blend that out too so that it's a uniform gray. Light gray, but a uniform gray, like that. Okay. And if you look at that, you're getting pretty much a good idea of some form of cylinder. I may go back in here, and that's too big. Let's bring my brush down a bit. And add a little sharper edge on this side and on the bottom. And of course we may have a shadow on the background, so I'll just scribble in a shadow and blend out the shadow a bit. Whoops. There we go. That's a good blend. Okay. Maybe add a little bit more in here. Like so. And you can start to see we've got some semblance of a cylinder. Now you may make this a little taller, a little wider, but you've essentially got a rectangle with an oval on top, which makes you have a cylinder. So that's what you do with a cylinder, and you can start to see how we're playing with these gradients to come up with a decent way of showing shade as it moves from light, as we may do over here with a little bit more light. Whoop. Moves from light with the eraser to the dark of the paintbrush. Okay, so that's what we're doing. And so your challenge, of course, is to make a bunch of cylinders. So go ahead, you've got pretty much the idea. You start black on one side and eraser on the other once you start getting gray on the far side. And just go back and forth and make a bunch of cylinders exactly the same way I just did here. And try for about 10 cylinders, and whichever one you think came out best, you can send that to me on Twitter, at Steve Lipton. And again, the hashtag will be Explore Procreate. So we'll be doing more with this and going to the next step of building up your drawing vocabulary. So don't forget to subscribe so you can get all of the upcoming lessons. And don't miss a single episode that way. So check out the series webpage as well, that you'll find the links below, which will have more information about the course and other stuff that we're doing.